My mother called my apartment cozy, as my brother bragged about his mansion. So I told them I owned the houses next door to him. It was the last family dinner I would ever attend. Have you ever been pushed to the point where silence was no longer an option? Share your story in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe to see what happens next. My name is Lauren Hayes. I'm 35 years old, and I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I work in real estate, which means I buy and sell houses. But you wouldn't know that if you saw my small, simple apartment. It is cozy and quiet, and I like it that way. I don't need a huge house to feel happy, even though I own many. Last Sunday, my family had dinner together in the suburbs. It was one of those big family dinners where everyone talks at the same time. My mom couldn't stop talking about my older brother Ryan's new big house. It had 4 bedrooms, a swimming pool, shiny marble counters, and even fancy lights called chandeliers. Mom's voice was full of pride, and she sounded like she thought this house was the most amazing thing in the world. Ryan just sat there smiling while his wife added more about their fancy house. I stayed quiet, picking at my food. I'm used to being ignored in my family. Then Mom looked at me with a sweet but sharp tone. "Lauren, wouldn't you love to stay at their place? Your apartment is so cozy," she said. Everyone at the table laughed. I could feel their eyes on me. My Aunt Rose's eyes met mine, silently encouraging me. I put down my fork, leaned forward, and said calmly, "Thanks, Mom, but I own 2 houses next door and one across from that mansion. Which one do you want to crash at?" The room went completely silent. No one said a word. That moment changed everything for me. I realized I didn't need anyone's approval to know my worth. Growing up in Sioux Falls, my family looked like any other normal middle-class family. Kids rode bikes down the street, and neighbors said hello over their fences. But inside our home, things were different. My mom had a favorite, and it wasn't me. Ryan is 3 years older than me. Even as kids, Mom treated him like he could do no wrong. I would come home with straight A's or a ribbon from a science fair, and she barely noticed. "That's nice, Lauren," she would say, then turn to Ryan, her face lighting up. "You made team captain for basketball, Ryan. I'm so proud." His team lost every game, but Mom acted like he was a champion. I remember one spring I spent weeks making a model rocket for a school contest. I glued every piece carefully. It won first place, and I ran home holding my blue ribbon. Mom was helping Ryan with his math homework. "We'll check it out later," she said, looking at his notebook. Later never happened. But when Ryan scored 1 basket in a game he lost badly, Mom clapped like he had won a trophy. I stood there with my ribbon, feeling invisible. It wasn't just school. I joined the debate team in middle school and practiced a lot. I won regionals and got my picture in the local newspaper. Mom didn't come to see me. But when Ryan got a C in history, she baked a cake to celebrate. I would lie awake at night, thinking about why my best wasn't enough. It wasn't just about praise. I wanted to feel like I belonged in my own family. My dad tried to help. He would see me sad and take me to the park, pushing me on the swings. "You're going to do big things, Lauren," he would say quietly, like he didn't want Mom to hear. But he never told Mom off. When she gushed about Ryan, Dad would just stay quiet. I wished he would say something to make her see me. One summer, I built a birdhouse in woodworking class. It was simple, but I carved my initials on it. I showed it to Mom, hoping she would notice. "That's cute," she said, then went back to her magazine. The next day, Ryan broke his skateboard doing a stunt. Mom spent hours comforting him and promised a new one. My birdhouse sat on my shelf, forgotten. My Aunt Rose, Dad's sister, was different. She would visit during holidays and bring me books about architecture and space. "Keep going, kid," she would whisper, squeezing my shoulder. "You're special." Once, when I was 12, she saw me sulking because Mom praised Ryan for tying his shoes right. She gave me a journal and said, "Write your dreams here. They're yours, not hers." That journal became my safe place where I drew plans for a future that no one could ignore. High school was my turning point. I stopped trying to make Mom proud. I did every project and joined every club I could, determined to make my own way. I read about real estate, fascinated by how people could turn small investments into big success. It wasn't just about money. It was about building something strong that Mom couldn't dismiss. Every time she bragged about Ryan fixing his bike or joining a play, I thought about the houses I would own one day. I wasn't just competing with him. I wanted to exceed everyone's expectations. There was one moment I'll never forget. In 10th grade, I organized a school fundraiser for kids who needed books. We raised a lot of money, and the principal called me to the stage to thank me. I looked for Mom in the crowd. She wasn't there. She was cheering for Ryan at his soccer practice, even though he mostly sat on the bench. I held the microphone, smiled, and promised myself I'd never let her ignoring me stop me. Looking back, I don't think Mom meant to hurt me. Maybe she thought Ryan needed her more. Or maybe she saw her younger self in him. But it didn't matter. The constant comparisons and ignoring me built a fire in me. I wasn't just going to succeed. I was going to make them see what they had missed. And I would do it on my own. After leaving home for college, I started my journey. I got a full scholarship to the University of South Dakota, studying business with a focus on real estate. My teachers saw my potential and trusted me to lead group projects. By my junior year, I was interning at a local real estate firm, learning how to find undervalued properties and make them profitable. Each deal felt like solving a puzzle. After graduation, I stayed in Vermilion, saving every penny. My first big purchase was a small duplex at 23, which I fixed up and rented out. The rent gave me a taste of what was possible. Over the next few years, I bought more properties, a condo here, a townhouse there. I chose each one carefully. By my late 20s, I owned half a dozen properties, including 3 houses in Sioux Falls' nicest neighborhood, right near the kind of mansion Ryan would later brag about. Those 3 houses alone were worth over $2 million. But I kept it a secret. Mom and Dad spent money on Ryan's fancy wedding and helped him buy his first flashy house. I got a card in the mail with $50 and a note. "Congrats on graduating, Lauren." That was it. I wasn't surprised. It made me decide to keep my success private. Why give them a chance to compare me to Ryan or dismiss what I'd done? I lived simply in a 1-bedroom apartment downtown. My tenants paid the bills, and my bank account grew quietly. I drove a used car, shopped at regular stores, and avoided flashy things. When Mom called, she'd ask about my little job, and then talk about Ryan's new promotion or car. I'd smile and say, "That's great," then change the subject. It wasn't about her knowing. It was about me knowing. My best friend Jenna from college was one of the few who knew. She was a journalist and found my name in a property database. "Lauren, you own what?" she asked, her eyes wide. "3 houses in that neighborhood? You're sitting on a gold mine." I laughed. She said, "Why hide it? You should be proud." I shrugged. "It's not about them knowing. It's about me knowing." Jenna shook her head, but didn't push further. Meanwhile, Ryan and his wife loved showing off. They posted vacation pictures, designer clothes, and their big SUV. Mom would forward them to me, gushing. I scrolled past, not impressed. I knew the truth. Their spending didn't make sense. A friend in finance told me Ryan had taken a second mortgage to keep up appearances. I didn't say a word. Let them think they were winning. Even now, I live quietly and simply. I still own all my houses, and my tenants pay my bills. I drive my used car and shop at regular stores. I know what I've built is worth more than money. It's worth my independence, my confidence, and my pride. I don't need anyone's approval to know I've done well. And the best part? One day at a family dinner, I can show them quietly, without shouting, that I've built a life that no one can ignore. When Mom said the family trust fund would go to Ryan, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I put my fork down with a loud clink that stopped everyone from talking. Every single head turned toward me, and I felt all eyes on me. I leaned forward, taking a deep breath, and spoke clearly. My voice was steady, even though my chest felt full of anger and years of being ignored. "Mom," I said slowly, "you promised that trust fund was for both of us. But you know what? I don't need it. I already own 3 houses right next to Ryan's big mansion. You can pick one if you ever want to visit." The room went completely quiet. It was the kind of silence that makes you feel like the world has paused. Mom's wine glass froze in midair. Her eyes were huge, like she couldn't believe what she had just heard. Ryan's confident smile disappeared in a flash. His face turned pale, and he looked like someone had scared him. His wife's bracelet stopped making noise, and her mouth stayed half open, frozen in shock. Aunt Beatrice across the table gave me a tiny, proud smile, barely hiding it. I caught her eyes, and it felt like a secret nod just for me. Dad, who had been quietly slicing his roast all evening, finally looked up. His eyes met mine for the first time all night, steady and calm. I didn't wait for anyone else to speak. I took a slow breath and started to speak more, letting out all the feelings I had kept inside for years. "Let's talk about fairness," I said. I looked directly at Mom. "When I was 12, I won first place for my model rocket. But you were too busy helping Ryan with fractions he didn't understand. In 8th grade, I led the debate team to regionals, and you threw a party for his C in history. In high school, I organized a big fundraiser that bought books for kids who had none, and you cheered for his soccer games, even when he barely played. Every time I did something great, you didn't even notice me. Mom's face turned red. Her lips moved, but no words came out. I wasn't stopping. I had waited too long to speak. I built my life without any money from you. No trust fund, no gifts, no help. Just my own hard work. Those 3 houses? I bought them all myself while you were paying for Ryan's wedding and his house. I am his neighbor now, and you never even realized it. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder. I slid it across the table so everyone could see it. Inside were the property papers for my 3 houses. The folder hit the table with a soft thud, but in that quiet room, it sounded like a drum. Ryan grabbed the folder with shaking hands. He flipped through it and stammered, "This is fake." "You're lying, Lauren." His wife leaned over, squinting at the papers. "You live in that tiny apartment," she said, confused. "This must be some kind of trick." I smiled, calm and steady. "That apartment? I rent it out to keep things simple. My tenants pay the bills. But maybe you should look at your own money. I heard you have a second mortgage just to keep up your fancy lifestyle." Ryan's face went pale, and his wife's jaw tightened. Her brave, confident face was crumbling. The papers were real, stamped and official. There was no way to deny them. Mom finally found her voice, sounding angry. "Lauren, how dare you speak to your brother like that? He worked hard for everything." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Worked hard? You paid for his house, his wedding, and now you're giving him Grandpa's trust fund. What did I get? A $50 check for graduating college, and a pat on the head. That's it." Aunt Beatrice coughed quietly, trying to hide a smirk. Her eyes were still locked on me, and it felt like she was silently cheering me on. I straightened my back and spoke even more clearly. "I'm done letting you treat me like I don't matter. I've built an empire bigger than anything you've given Ryan, and I did it even though you ignored me all these years. I worked hard, I planned, and I made it happen myself. No help, no handouts, nothing from you." Dad finally spoke. His voice was low, calm, and strong like a dam breaking open. "She's right, Elaine." Mom opened her mouth, but she didn't know what to say. Ryan's face was pale, and his smugness was gone. His wife's bracelets hung quietly on her arm. Aunt Beatrice leaned back in her chair with a little smile that said everything. I took another deep breath, feeling stronger as I spoke. "I remember when I was a kid, trying to show you what I could do. I was the kid who built a birdhouse and you didn't even notice. I won trophies and awards and you only saw Ryan. But look at me now. I have my own empire. I own houses, I make my own money, and I am living life my way. You can't ignore me anymore." Mom tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. "No, I'm not done. I want you to understand. Every deal I made, every house I bought, every tenant I helped, was me proving I could do it on my own. I didn't need your approval. I didn't need you to notice me. I did it myself, and I did it better than you ever imagined." Ryan's hands trembled slightly as he held the folder. This isn't possible," he said, almost whispering. "It's possible," I said firmly. "I worked for it. I earned it. I didn't wait for anyone to give me a chance, and now I have it all. And you're sitting there with a trust fund that could have been mine too." Mom looked like she was going to say something, but I kept talking. "I don't need that money, Mom. I don't need your help. I've already proven that I can do everything on my own. I have my own life, my own success, my own empire. And I'm proud of it." Aunt Beatrice's eyes sparkled. She nodded ever so slightly. I felt like I had a secret ally right there at the table. Dad's voice cut through the room again. "Lauren is right. You can't keep treating her like she's invisible. She's done more with her life than you'll ever notice." Mom opened her mouth again but stopped. There was nothing left to say. Ryan's face was red now, his wife still silent. The papers on the table proved everything. I leaned back in my chair, finally feeling the weight of years lift off my shoulders. I wasn't that kid who was ignored anymore. I wasn't the one sitting quietly, watching Ryan get everything. I had my own life, my own success, and my own power. I looked at everyone at the table and said softly, but with strength, "I don't need anyone to give me my worth. I've built it myself, brick by brick, house by house. And now you all know. You can't ignore me anymore." The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Ryan's smugness was gone, his wife's confidence was gone, and Mom didn't know how to respond. Aunt Beatrice's tiny smile grew just a little, proud and secretive. Dad just nodded slowly as if to say, "Finally, she's being seen." For the first time in my life, I felt truly proud. Not because someone gave me approval, but because I had earned everything myself. I had turned years of being overlooked into a life of success, independence, and respect. I didn't need a trust fund. I had built my own empire. And now, everyone at that table had to see it. The room went completely quiet. Everyone's eyes turned to him. Mom's face was red with anger, and her voice was sharp like a whip. "Thomas, don't you dare," she hissed. But Dad didn't flinch. He didn't say a word. He just looked at us, serious, like he was finally standing up to something he had been holding inside for years. "You've always favored Ryan since they were kids," Dad said slowly, his voice low but firm. "And it has hurt Lauren her whole life. Look at what she has accomplished. She doesn't need your money. But she deserves your respect." His words hit the room like a thunderbolt. The kind that makes you feel it in your chest. Mom's face twisted with shock and fury. Her hands clenched the table so hard her knuckles were white. Ryan shifted in his chair, looking nervous all of a sudden. The confident, smug look he usually had was gone. His wife, who had been so proud and sure, stared at the floor, quiet and unsure. I stood up, pushing my chair back so hard it scraped loudly across the floor. "I'm not here to ask for your approval," I said, my voice strong. I looked at Mom, Ryan, and his wife. "I have spent years proving that I am good enough, and I am done letting you act like I don't exist. Ryan, enjoy your mansion," I continued. "I own the block around it. Mom, keep your trust fund. My life, my work, my success, my legacy, is bigger than anything you have given him." I grabbed my purse, nodded to Aunt Rose, and started walking toward the door. Mom's voice followed me, sharp and shrill. "Lauren, you are being ridiculous," she shouted. But I didn't look back. I wasn't trying to make a show. I wasn't doing this to be dramatic. I was standing up for myself. I was taking back all the years they had tried to ignore me. After I spoke, the room felt heavier than ever. Mom's face was a mix of shock and anger. Her eyes narrowed as she jabbed a finger at me. "Lauren, you're just showing off," she snapped, her voice dripping with scorn. "It's disrespectful to brag about your success in front of us." She didn't apologize. She didn't even pause to think about what I had said. Instead, she just got angrier. "You have always been jealous of Ryan," she continued, her voice sharp. "Maybe if you worked harder, you wouldn't feel the need to make a scene." Ryan jumped in, trying to save himself. "Yeah, Lauren, what's your problem? We're doing fine without you stirring things up." His face was red, and the confident, self-assured look he always had was replaced with a desperate need to look brave. His wife nodded quickly, her voice high and irritated. "You think you're better than us because of some houses? Our mansions? The talk of Sioux Falls?" She tossed her hair like that solved everything. But her eyes kept flicking nervously at the folder of deeds sitting on the table. Aunt Rose just sat there quietly, her eyes steady on me. She didn't need to say a word. Her look told me she understood. Dad's hands were clenched, but he stayed silent. His moment of courage earlier seemed to have vanished. I pushed my chair back again. The scrape of wood against the floor echoed through the room. "I'm done with this," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I've spent my life trying to prove myself to you, Mom. And you've never seen me. I'm not jealous of Ryan. I've done better than him on my own terms. But I am done with these dinners, these lectures, and this family acting like I don't exist." I grabbed my coat, ignoring Mom's sputtered protests. "Keep your trust fund and your praise for Ryan. I don't need either." I gave Aunt Rose a final nod. Her eyes were warm with approval. Then I walked out the door, which clicked shut behind me. Later that evening, I sat in my apartment staring out at the Sioux Falls skyline. The city lights blinked like little stars below me, and I felt a mix of sadness and relief. My phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Dad. "Lauren, let's talk," he said, his voice heavy with regret. I should have spoken up sooner. I listened, my thumb hovering over the call button. But I didn't call back. His words came too late. After years of silence, I wasn't ready to forgive. I deleted the message and turned off my phone. I needed distance, not apologies. This dinner wasn't just about one night. It was about a lifetime of being ignored and pushed aside. The next day, I met Jenna at a coffee shop downtown. She had heard about the dinner from a friend and insisted on seeing me. "Lauren, you were incredible," she said, her eyes bright with admiration. She leaned across the table. "You stood up to them and told them the truth. That took so much courage." I managed a small smile, stirring my latte. It felt good to be recognized, but I knew it wasn't over. They still didn't understand me. Jenna reached out and squeezed my hand. "They don't have to understand. You know who you are, and that's enough. Keep being that brave woman I saw last night." Her words warmed me. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not for my houses or my money, but for my courage and strength. Over the next week, Mom sent text after text, each one angrier than the last. One read, "You embarrassed us." Another said, "You owe Ryan an apology." I didn't reply. Ryan posted on social media about their upcoming block party, trying to make it look like a big, happy celebration. I scrolled past it, completely unbothered. His wife shared photos of their pool with little hints about jealous relatives. I blocked them both. I wasn't going to play their game anymore. Meanwhile, my properties were doing well. My tenants were reliable, and my plans for a new commercial lot were moving forward. My life didn't need their validation. A few days later, Dad called again, leaving another voicemail. "Lauren, I'm proud of you," he said softly. "I stayed quiet for too long. Please, let's talk." My chest tightened, but I didn't call back. His support now couldn't fix all the years he let Mom's favoritism go on. I needed to protect what I had built, not just my buildings, but my confidence and my sense of self. I deleted the message and focused on my work. My resolve grew stronger. That week, I made a decision. No more family gatherings. No more pretending we were happy. Mom's refusal to see her favoritism, Ryan's need to appear perfect, and his wife's petty comments proved they would never change. Aunt Rose sent a short text. "You did good, kid." It felt enough to know someone understood. Jenna's encouragement stayed with me, reminding me that I didn't need my family's approval to keep moving forward. I had spent years building a life bigger than their expectations, and I wasn't going back to being the invisible daughter. 3 months later, I heard from Aunt Rose again. Her message was brief, but heavy with news. Ryan and his wife were in trouble. They had spent too much money, and their mansion, the pride of Sioux Falls, was up for sale. A friend in real estate said the bank was pushing for foreclosure because they hadn't paid the second mortgage. They had spent all their savings, racked up credit card debt, and couldn't keep up with their fancy lifestyle. By the end of the month, they sold the house at a loss and moved into a tiny one-bedroom apartment far from their pool and fancy imported drapes. Aunt Rose also told me about Mom and Dad. Their marriage, already shaky, had cracked under the weight of my revelations. Dad had confronted Mom about always favoring Ryan. Their arguments became frequent and loud, sometimes late at night, and the neighbors could hear them. Mom refused to admit she had been wrong. Dad didn't stay silent anymore. He moved to a small condo near downtown, leaving Mom alone in their suburban house. He looked tired and burdened, carrying the weight of years spent letting Mom's bias go unchecked. Meanwhile, I stayed busy. I had started a charitable foundation to help kids get an education. I used the profits from my properties to give scholarships to children from families with less money. I wanted to make a difference, not just for myself, but for others who might never get the help they needed. Life was moving forward. I had my work, my properties, my foundation, and my friends who truly saw me. I didn't need my family's approval anymore. I had claimed my life, my legacy, and my happiness. And for the first time in years, I felt free. I wasn't invisible anymore. The first event I ever planned turned out to be a quiet, but wonderful success. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was full of hope and happiness. I had started something called the Horizon Fund, a name that made me think of the bright future ahead. I chose that name because I wanted to help other people see their own horizons too, to believe that their dreams could come true if someone believed in them. That day, I gave 10 high school students special grants to help them pay for college. Each one of them had worked hard and dreamed big, but money had always been a problem. Now, for the first time, they could see a way forward. When I stood on the small stage in the community center, I looked at their faces shining with excitement. Their parents sat in the front row, smiling and wiping away tears of joy. It was one of those moments that made my heart feel full. It felt like I had done something that really mattered, something my mom never believed I could do. I wasn't the less successful child anymore. I had done something on my own, something good, and I didn't need anyone's approval to feel proud. My rental properties kept bringing in money every month, and I started to think about what else I could do with the Horizon Fund. I wanted it to grow into something bigger, not just giving money, but also giving time, guidance, and care. I began planning a mentorship program so young people could have adults to talk to, people who would guide them and cheer them on. About a week after the event, my phone rang. It was Jenna, a kind woman who worked for a regional magazine. She said she was writing a story about local people who were helping others in the community. "Lauren, your foundation is making waves," she told me. We met at a small cafe near my office. Jenna sat across from me with her coffee, a notepad, and a pen ready. "People are talking about you," she said, smiling. "They say you're changing lives." I laughed a little, and took a sip of my latte. "It's not about being noticed," I said. "It's about doing something real." Jenna nodded and jotted down notes quickly. "That's exactly why people want to read about you," she said. "You're not just rich, you care about people. That's rare." When her article came out a month later, it made me smile. It talked about the Horizon Fund and how I was helping students, but it didn't mention my family at all. I liked that. My story was mine, not something tied to Mom or my brother Ryan. I wanted the world to see what I had built, not what I had run away from. Mom must have read the article, because soon she started calling. At first, I ignored the calls. Then she began leaving long voice messages. Some sounded angry, some sounded sad. "Lauren, we need to talk as a family," one message said. Another time, she sounded almost upset. "You've made your point. Now stop this nonsense." I didn't reply. I didn't want another fight. I had spent too many years trying to please her, trying to earn her love. Then Ryan texted me. His message was short and mean. "You ruined everything with your little stunt at the dinner." I read it once, sighed, and blocked his number. I didn't have the energy to argue anymore. After that, I noticed something strange. Ryan's wife stopped posting her usual photos online. She used to share pictures of their fancy house, their vacations, and their swimming pool parties. Now her posts were vague, little hints about hard times, about life being unfair. I didn't bother to find out more. I didn't need to. Instead, I kept working. My focus was on my life, my tenants, and my foundation. I even started looking at a new commercial building downtown that I might buy. I didn't wish harm on my family, but I knew that the problems they were facing came from their own choices. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty about that. 6 months after that big dinner, the one where everything fell apart, I sat on my apartment balcony, watching the lights of Sioux Falls glow against the night sky. The view stretched out wide, full of promise. I thought about how far I had come since that night. Walking away from Mom's table had felt heavy at first, but now it felt like the best decision I had ever made. Letting go wasn't easy. It hurt, but it also set me free. I had spent my whole life chasing their approval, trying to prove I was good enough. Now, I finally understood that I didn't need them to believe in me. I believed in myself. My success, my foundation, my peace, they were mine. I had built them without Mom's help, without Ryan's shadow hanging over me. I wasn't the scared girl who begged for attention anymore. I was strong. I was whole. A few days later, my Aunt Rose sent me an email. She was always kind and never took sides. "Hey kid," her message said, "I'm starting a new community outreach project. You'd be perfect for it. No family drama, just good work." Her note made me smile. I loved her for always believing in me. But I wrote back politely and said no. I didn't want to do anything that connected me to Mom, Dad, or Ryan. Aunt Rose understood. She never pushed me to make peace. She knew I wasn't ready, and maybe I never would be. Not long after, I heard through friends that Mom and Dad had finally separated. Their marriage couldn't survive all the years of secrets, anger, and favoritism. Ryan and his wife weren't doing well either. They had to move into a smaller apartment because they couldn't keep up with their debts. Their rich friends stopped visiting once the parties ended. When I looked back at it all, I could see the truth clearly. Mom's favoritism didn't just hurt me, it hurt all of us. She gave Ryan everything he wanted, but that made him weak and unprepared for real life. She ignored me, which pushed Dad away. In the end, everyone lost something. The family she tried to control fell apart, not because I told the truth, but because of the choices she made long ago. And I learned something important from all of it. Sometimes, to protect your heart and your worth, you have to walk away, even if it means walking away from family. Leaving them didn't make me mean or cold. It made me free. I had built a life bigger and brighter than their expectations. I had found happiness on my own. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was me, strong, peaceful, and finally truly free.